My mind. All right, let's see how talented I am this morning. Oh, okay, hold on, it's not gonna let me. Let's try one more time. Okay, that's the screen I want to share. All right, so welcome everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces, and it's fun. We're here at another year of science fair, and the most fun is that we get to learn a new system. For those of you who don't know, unfortunately, Scienteer went away. It was run by a gentleman in Austin who is retiring, and just the code and the technology and all that just got to be too much. So it had to go away. Excuse me, I am really fighting allergies this morning. All right. So for those of you that don't know us, we are Dallas Regional, Region 10. So we serve all of the schools within the Region 10 district. That is about 840,000 students altogether. We typically have about 1,000 students at our fair with about 800 projects. So it's a pretty large fair. It's not the largest in the state of Texas. Houston beats us by a little, but we're definitely gaining on them. So for those of you that are new to the science fair, you may be wondering how do I determine how many students I can send? You can send 2% of your total population. So if you are in a large district, that's a lot of students. Or if your school, you can send 2% of that population. So we don't really care how you select your students. We just want completed paperwork and projects that come to our fair. So however you don't have to hold a traditional science fair if you do not want to. You can just do it there in the classroom and then send them to us to compete in the Dallas Regional. Like I said, we are an all volunteer organization. Beal Bank is our primary sponsor. We are supported by SMU, not only money, but resources, and also Corvo and Friesen Nichols. So we are lucky to have a lot of very committed steering committee members that help us throughout the year as well. So Fair Day will be on February 17th. We are always the third Saturday of the month. And it's the same schedule. We will be all in person again. We will continue to follow the traditional schedule that you see here, and students can bring in their board, their lab book, and any kind of electronic device they need. They may not bring anything else. I know that students really want to demonstrate the thing that they made, but that's not what science fair is all about. Science fair is about presenting your research and answering questions and having a conversation with the judge. And we find when we let students bring things, they bring all the wrong things. So we really like this model, and we are going to continue to do that. So prizes, we first, second, third, fourth, and excuse me, larger categories, we give cash prizes, thanks to our buddies at Beal Bank. Award banquet, again, will be held in person at SMU in the spring. We'll combine the banquets again like we did last year. So junior and senior will be together. We are continuing our teacher awards. So the top teachers in the junior division and in the senior division will get cash prizes. We still advance to Texas, so the Texas State Fair, and I believe we have a meeting with them next week, but I believe that is place 1 and 2. Also, Thermo Fisher middle school students that win first or second place can be advanced to Thermo Fisher. And then we have 9 spots that go directly to ISEF. So that is really cool. We took 13 projects to ISEF last year and won 3 first place. And all 3 of the first place winners were girls. So not that we don't love the boys, but we thought that was pretty fun. We have lots of special awards. So students not only get to see their category judges, but we have a wonderful, thanks to Christine, a wonderful list of special awards that the students also get to compete to. So before I start STEM Wizard, I am going to pause and see if anyone has any questions about the fair itself. I know we're going to have lots of questions about STEM Wizard. So any questions about, and if you want to put them in the chat, that's totally fine with me. If you have any questions about how you send students, what you need to do or anything, if you want to go ahead and excuse me, put that in the chat now. Okay, no, it looks like I did such a great job explaining it. You all do not need any more explanation. So we're going to talk about STEM Wizard, and my fear is that it's going to take up the next hour and we're going to be out of time. So the SRC, we have a video. We will show it if we have time, but we are going to spend a lot of time here talking about STEM Wizard. So what you see here is our homepage, the Dallas regional homepage for STEM Wizard. So I'm going to stop right here. And the confusing part is there are 6 districts that have their own sub fairs. That is, I think I've got it listed here. All Saints, Allen, Dallas, Frisco, Plano, and Uplift. So if you are in one of those districts, you do not go to the Dallas landing page. You go to your own landing page. So if you don't see your school listed when you go to Dallas and you are in Frisco, it's because you need to be going to the Frisco landing page. It's unfortunately, STEM Wizard is set up very differently than Scienteer was. And so this is the way that your science coordinators can see the teachers and the students within their own districts. So how do you, the steps in STEM Wizard are basically the school gets added, the teacher adds themselves, and then the students add themselves and identify their teacher. So that's how it all, that's the steps. So the first step is your school needs to be listed before any of your teachers can sign up. So that is the very, very first thing that you need to do. So it looks a little like this. So this is a teacher registration. So welcome to the fair. Please fill in all of your information. And then as a teacher, you will select the school. So you select the school and then the student selects you, and that's how it all gets connected. And you don't have access right away. So once you register as a teacher, you wait for an approval to come, and then you're good and you're set up and ready to go. We have our deadline is set for February 2nd. We are still $15, and everything you need to have your students done and advanced in STEM, I almost said Scienteer, in STEM Wizard before that date. All right, so I'm going to stop.
Real quick,
yes.
Just as we've gone through this with our teachers, if you've not registered yet as a teacher, you'll probably get a message when you register saying that you have not been approved. That's because whoever is administering that fair has not gone in and activated you yet. You just sit tight and they will go in and they will activate you. It does not mean that they are not approving you.
Great, thank you for that. And no, there is no limit to the amount of teachers you can have. So even if you have a teacher that just has one student, they need to be in STEM Wizard. Because remember, this is also the way we are going to determine which teachers have the most, successful students. So make sure that that is all, that everyone is in there. Okay, so now I'm going to go over a couple of things on in the actual STEM Wizard. So there's a couple of resources out there that I want you all to take advantage of. So we're going to get everything updated on the website, but it's not there yet. So you have access to a Google folder that has all of the forms in it. So okay, so one change this year is for junior division, and this is junior division only. They only have to fill out one form. So we're not going to have them do all the ISEP forms. And the one form has all that information on it, right? So they will fill out this form and have it signed and upload it. Senior division still has to fill out all the required forms. So this is what our page looks like. So about the fair, our dates. This is another place where you can go and find these documents. So I want to show you that real quick. So you've got the guides for teachers. The handbook is a little bit more specifically for the students, but I also encourage you to go through and look at the handbook. I've uploaded the STEM Wizard student and teacher guides, and then the different folders. So for junior, they have a blank abstract, because remember in Scienteer, they answered a whole bunch of questions and their abstract was populated. They need to go in and make their abstract. They've got the project board template. We're doing that still again this year. And then this is the one form. It's called the safety and consent form. And this is the form they need to fill out before they start researching. And if you look at these forms, and in the handbook, we've put some little notes on there to help them try to figure out what needs to be filled out and where it needs to be signed and by whom it needs to be signed. So that is there. So as a teacher, I would go here. So student, teacher. So I would go here and fill out all of my stuff. So put in my name, all of that, and then select the school from which I am from. Now, again, if your school is not listed, then please email us and we will get you in there. The form, so that's a great question. For those of you that have access to Adobe, whatever, you can do it that way, yes. But for those of you that don't, it's going to need to be printed. The student's going to need to take it around, get it signed, and then scan it and upload it. So unfortunately, it's not as cool as Scienteer. And there, if you don't have access to, technology, right? You're just going to need to print it, scan it, and then re-upload it. All right, so then that's this is what you need to do to fill out for teachers. So let's go over here. So this is what we see as administrators. Now for teachers, you're going to see a list of your students, right? So I encourage everyone on this call, and Ashley may kill me for saying this, but go in and make a dummy student. I think it's really important for you to see what they're going to see. And it's actually pretty simple. So the first thing they do is, let's see, and I can pull this up in the handbook. Yes, you do have access. The question is from somebody, I think at Plano, do we have access to the Google Forms? Yes, I went in all 6 of those sub fairs, put the Google Forms access link to the Google Forms. And again, Christine's going to be updating the website after this is over, so you'll also be able to get that on the teacher page of our website. Just because I'm here, I want to talk about categories real quick. This is the bane of our existence because the judges complain. Judges have a hard time judging a project on the day of the science fair that is in the wrong category. They come to us all the time. And so I really would be thrilled if you all as teachers would take a moment with your students, print this page out, and when they say I'm in embedded systems, ask them what their subcategory is. I think the subcategories really help the students better understand that just because there's a math problem in my project, it might not actually be a math project. And so I know there's, and some of you that do have opportunities to interview with judges also have this issue. The judge goes over to a project that's in system software that should really be in embedded systems, and it's hard. Then you're comparing apples and oranges. So if and I know as some students get a little higher in their educational path, those in the senior division may play a little bit of a game with their category, thinking that if they're in this category, there's less projects and they have a better chance of winning first place. But it really counts against them, especially in senior division, if they have chosen the wrong category. So we're gonna try to do a better job of communicating that to the students as they start to register. But it really is, it counts against them, especially in senior division. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So we were looking for the forms, and this is a really handy document. Okay, so this is the junior division form. So as you can see, it's really simple. It lists some of the things that that we see, you know, and Karen will say this in the SRC video, bacteria grown at home, we see it every year and we have to disqualify a project. It's just unfortunate. So this is all that they really need to do. So have them fill this out. It's 2 pages. This handbook also gives you the definitions of qualified scientist and who everybody is in the when we start talking about them, you know, a parent versus a supervised adult versus the teacher in the classroom.
Hey Heather, they don't see the form that you're talking about. Did you pull that up on the screen?
I did.
Okay, because it still shows the previous list of the project summary and all that.
Oh, okay. Let's just reshare my screen. Okay, so then there's a question in the chat. Do we see it now? Yeah, okay. Gotta love Zoom. There was a question in the chat about can it go. You know, James, I don't actually know the answer. Christine, do you know the answer to that? Are there
So the
categories?
categories are either science or engineering. They're not both. Because that's how we figure out, you know, which ones go where and who's the judge and all that. And the later on, when we do the grand prize, certain categories fall under science, certain categories fall under engineering.
Right. Okay. So okay, so this is the junior form. So junior division, 6th, 7th, and 8th, they just need this form and that's it. Senior division, they'll still need to fill out all the ISEF forms. There is a wizard in STEM Wizard where they go in and answer the questions and then it tells them the forms that they need. And then as a teacher, you'll be able to see and I don't have I should have done a dummy student, but you'll be able to see where they have identified which forms they need. And this is especially important in the senior division. All right, so what questions do you have about STEM Wizard? How many of you have been able to go in and play with it a little? Okay, a couple of you.
Everyone from Plano should be registered and should have been able to at least see that opening page.
Yeah.
Although we did tell them not to play too much until they've been trained.
Anybody have any questions? Come on, y'all gotta have questions. So one of the things that is available in STEM Wizard that we did not take advantage of, and I think I'm going to add, is they have these things called milestones. And so for us, we've always said, here's the date of which you have to advance your students. And that was the only date we ever gave you all. There is an opportunity, though, in STEM Wizard to do a milestone, and Christine and I talked about this yesterday. We are going to probably institute a mid-December milestone. Students need to be in STEM Wizard and have their forms signed and uploaded. Because if you think about it, they can't start their research without those forms. And so I think we really, we don't want students adding themselves to STEM Wizard in January, right? So we're gonna play around with that and look at, this is, you know, all new for us as well. So figuring out how we make sure that students are doing all the forms and doing that before they start actually doing their research. Okay. Yes, just to be sure, junior forms gets printed, signed, and scanned, and that's the same for senior. The seniors just probably have more forms. Is there still the extra approval process? Yes, there is still the extra approval process if it's needed, right? So working with potentially hazardous materials, human subjects, all of that. And again, there is a wizard in STEM Wizard for those students to, you know, it asks the questions and then it tells them what forms they need. There's also one on the ISEF website if you ever need it. So there's 2 opportunities there.
The only caveat with that is that students have to answer the questions accurately. So as teachers, you have to be sure to work with your kids to make sure that they're answering the questions correctly so that it can tell them the correct forms that they need and they don't get bit in the butt later with, oh, hey, now that we've read your research plan, you interviewed people and you needed a human subjects form and you said you weren't working with people, so it didn't tell you you needed one.
Right, correct. Yes, that is sort of the same with categories. We're relying on the student to answer the questions correctly. And yes.
I just wanted to make a comment for everybody out there. As you go through this, STEM Wizard is not equivalent to Scienteer. And that meaning also it's not as stressful or scary as Scienteer. If you're playing around, you can undo almost everything. So you really can't screw anything up that we can't fix. So as you're going through and you're testing and trying to see how to do things, you can undo pretty much everything you've done. So I know in Scienteer there were a lot of struggles with that. We really had to connect with Russell and get it all done remotely. But a lot of that can be done locally. And then about the milestones, another good use of a milestone is if you're trying to get IRB approval for your local campus, if that's the way it's running, or you're needing pre-approval from the SRC, which we are doing as Plano for our local, over the whole district. Using milestones to stop that process to make sure we get those pre-approvals. That's another great use of the milestones.
Yes, thank you. So their research plan, I'm going to pull up what it looks like for a student so you can see where they put their stuff. So when a team signs up, they must do it from one computer. No. So it's the same as it was in Scienteer. Each team member needs to create their own account. And we ran into this last year with a student that showed up that was a part of the team but never registered, and we did not allow him to compete. So all team members need to register, and one team member needs to identify themselves as the team lead. It's pretty simple. So it's in there when they register, they're going to be asked, are you an individual or are you a team? So I'm going to share, and this document that I'm going to share is in the guide for teachers. And this is a really helpful, I took some screenshots when I was going through and was playing around with the fair. So this is Harry. Harry is a dummy student, and here's what Harry saw after he registered, put his teacher in, identified that. Anything this, and I'll echo what Michael said, the great thing about this is even if they fill all this out and they name their project and they pick their category and they want to change it, they can change it. So I'm unclear. I heard someone say that to change a category, the teacher has to go in and do it. That might be true, but this is the great thing about STEM Wizard is it's really easy to go back and edit something. So this is the first page that Harry sees when he goes on, and let's see if I've got another screenshot here. Okay, so then here's what he sees. So he's going to put in his project name. He's going to pick a category. And then he's going to save and go to the next. So then he's going to, so if you can see here, he has milestones, right? So his files and forms, even though it says February 4th, this is, and I'll get this changed. This is due before he starts his research, right? So these are the forms that need to be signed and need to be signed and uploaded before he starts his research. So he can go in and do his personal information. I might not have, let's see, project name and category can be changed. So here's where he picked his teacher. So once they save this, then that student will show up in your teacher view. All right. So begin their projects. I've put a whole bunch of helpful links in here. It's really just a duplication of all the other links, but just in case, we will be using, just like as we always have, the same 21 categories that ISEF has. There wasn't a change in any categories for this new fair season. Oh, okay. I used a student dummy account and change categories. Okay. Yeah. So encourage your students to just get on there, get their forms done, and then go in and edit the things they need to edit, even if they're not sure what category I'm in. You know, again, it's not like Scienteer. It doesn't have to be an act of, God to get things changed. They can go in and change them. All right. So what questions do we have at this point? Yeah, so the February dates are confusing and I'm gonna get that fixed. In my mind, I thought we only had one milestone, but then when I got in and started looking at it, I realized that that is confusing. And I tried to change it last night, but it doesn't look like I have that ability. So I've emailed the folks at STEM Wizard and I'm gonna have them fix it for me. So but just remember that February date is like when it all has to be to us. So that is the final date. All right. Any additional questions? Comments? All right. Well, I think I'll go ahead and show the updated SRC. So if you're a new teacher, there's a link to the 2022 SRC video, which is longer. So if you haven't been around Science Fair, you're going to want to watch that one. But we have a short update for what ISEF has updated. It's a couple minor things. It's nothing major. And I think the video is like 17 minutes. It's pretty short. So share my screen again. I'm just killing it. Let's see. No, hold on. See, you shouldn't say you're killing it, because then that's when it all falls apart. Right.
Hi everyone, this is Karen, former SRC chair for the Science Fair. Been doing this a long time. Went to
You can't mute.
this year and just wanted to give you a little overview. If you are new to this process, this is not the only video you need to watch. Heather will share the video that goes over all the rules in detail with you. This is just an update video for all of you guys that have been doing this a long time. So what has changed in the SRC paperwork? Well, let's just do an overview of ISEF last year, which was in Dallas and Austin, by the way. Here are some of the results. There were 1,638 finalists representing 1,324 projects. 50% females, go girls, 48% males, and one reported non-binary. We lost one in there somewhere. I don't know what that 1% was. But here's the concerning statistics from the fair. 8 projects failed to qualify due to paperwork issues or breaking rules for the science fair. We don't want that to happen to any of our students. So what do we need to do? Well, first off, I wanted to talk about what failed to qualify. Here are the main failures to qualify. PHBA, potentially hazardous biological agents. Always, kids doing things with bacteria that they shouldn't be doing seems to be the same thing that gets us at our fair every year when we have to disqualify kids. Ethical issues, cheating or reporting data that was not their own. Human projects, and specifically human projects that were apps with medical diagnosis, where kids were giving advice on medical against, hadn't had FDA approval. So that's not a good thing. We can't do that. We can't allow our kids to do that. And thing I learned that I didn't know was they run all the abstracts through Authenticate and look for any plagiarism issue, and they found 7 with plagiarism. And truly, these were students that were trying to quote their mentors and just accidentally plagiarize. So we just need to check that with all of our abstracts, that our students know how to write it in their own words. It has to be in their own words. We don't want any of our kids to get there and have an issue. So the International Science and Engineering Fair rules, this is your QR code to get you to them. And the QR code will show you all the rules that I'm talking about. If you are new, like I said, please make sure you read this and that you look at the video that Heather will tell you how to get to. So here is the biggest change for this year, junior division teachers, wahoo. The junior division will only be filling out one form this year. We have consolidated all the ISEF paperwork into one form. This is the state of Texas. All the fairs got together and said, let's do this for our junior division students. Middle school students still need to follow the ISEF rules. They will only have one form to replace all the forms that they were doing, unless they are doing any forms that have additional, like PHBAs and vertebrate animals. So those guys will still have some additional forms, but for most of our students, it is consolidated into one form. Go ahead, junior division teachers, Yahoo! Make sure you Yahoo about it. And Heather will talk to you about how to get to that form in STEM Wizard. Here's the first rule that I wanted to talk about, and this is on page 9 of the handbook, Rule 6C. Students are prohibited from providing diagnostic or medical information to participants without direct supervision and involvement of a medical professional. This includes publishing diagnostic apps on public websites or app stores without FDA approval. There were several last year, and students are really interested in these kinds of apps. They want to do apps that look at your blood sugar. They want to do apps that look at your heart rate. And these are really nice apps, but they cannot make medical diagnosis or give advice based on their app. They can proof of concept, but they cannot give advice. Several students were DQ'd last year because of this rule. So make sure if your students are doing some type of app like this, that they are not publishing it and giving medical advice. Another one, a human participant. This is page 9, Rule 1 under student designed inventions. This part's always been there. If someone other than the student is testing the student designed invention, an IRB is required. If the student themselves is testing the product, whatever it is, no IRB required. However, once somebody else, parent, another student, friend, anybody else that tested, it now becomes a human subject project and they need the human subject forms. But this is the part they added this year. This includes surveys regarding potential use of the invention or consumer product by the general public. So if they go out and say, hey, what do you think about this? And people answer it, those people are now humans and they need to have an IRB. Right, so make sure if they go out and start surveying, you get an IRB for the student. Here's one on the potentially hazardous biological agents that has been added. All students involving the use of all studies, not students. All students, oh my goodness, can you tell I'm retired? All studies involving the use of prions must be conducted at a regulated research institution under the supervision of a qualified scientist. So they used to be able to do prions in a school laboratory. They can no longer do that. It has to be at a regulated research institution. They didn't say which BSL it has to be, but regulated research institutions are usually a high enough BSL that is not a problem. I wanted to point out this on the research project plan, page 33, and that's this Rule C here. One thing that ISEF felt like they were having a real issue with is the project summary. So I think it's important that I explain to you what the project summary does. So when they are reading the SRC paperwork, they first read the abstract, and then if they have questions about the abstract, and it's not lining up with the research plan, they go to their project summary. So notice, if no changes are made from the original research plan, no project summary is required. So some students say they didn't do a change in the research plan, they don't do a project summary, and yet what is shown in the abstract and what is shown in the research plan are not the same thing. They can make changes as they're going along and figure things out, but they need to tell us what all those changes are. It needs to give us the rationale, the research question, and what kind of procedures, risk and safety, and data analysis that they changed. That's really important so that the SRC can figure out how it fits together. Some of the students like to pre-do the the project summary before they really finish the project. And teachers, I know this is one of those pains to get from them because it's after the fact. They have to come in and give you that project summary. But it's so important that that project summary truly reflects what the students have done. So what changes have there been on the forms? This is the reason I'm not going back through everything, because there have been very few changes. Although Michelle Glidden had a lot to say about the forms, and one of the things she wanted to start working on this year is really consolidating those forms a little bit for all of our students. One of the things she said, like, why do we have to sign in so many places if we're a teacher? And why do we have to sign in so many places if we're a qualified scientist? Like, not changing the rules, but just changing the redundancy that we see in a lot of the forms. So stay tuned, because maybe next year there will be lots of changes, but there are very few changes this year. Here's one of the changes, and this is on Form 1C, the second part of 1C, and this is what that says. Were there other high school students present? If yes, please list the student names and describe how the work was related or different from the work of the project. I love this addition. And here's what happens. We have students working together, and then sometimes the students are like, hey, I'm going to present it as my own project because we work together in Texas, and now I'm in California and they're in Texas, and now it's my project. This is a problem as far as International Science Fair is concerned. And we had no way to discern what each student did if they were working together and didn't present this paperwork together. So this paperwork might be Michael's paperwork, and Michael and Karen worked together. And so down here, the person would say, well, Karen worked here too, but she was working on a completely different lab. Or Karen worked here too, and they were working together. They shared this information. So this just helps us to figure out who actually did the work, and is really important when we get into some of the nuances of the paperwork at International. So I love this here. This is the sources of information for all projects, and it is in the book, but that QR code will get you here. And if you click on sources, you will find the sources of information for all projects with all the links active. And it shows us information about patenting, more information about human participants, more information about vertebrate animals. This is a wealth of information, and I love this addition that they have made here because it really helps us to find some information. You know, we need help sometimes, right? So it is actually written in pages 23 to 25 of the SRC paperwork book, but this one will get you straight to all of those links. And now I'm going to harp on something. This is the one thing I'm going to harp on this year. I have been harping on it for the last 38 years. I feel like maybe only 35 or 38. And it is categories. So the categories our students are picking do not always reflect what they're doing. So this is in the SRC book on page 29, but this will take you, this QR code will take you to more information about each category. Once you have chosen at your school level where the students need, I'm sorry, what category, I'm gonna try that again. Once you've chosen your students to move forward, what we need to do is make sure they're in the right categories. I can't tell you how many judges had come up to me when I was a science coordinator and they say, who helps these kids pick out their categories? And I would say, well, the teachers help them sometimes, but you know, the kids don't always listen. I know that. I know you can give all sorts of advice and they won't listen, especially our senior division kids who will say, I don't want to participate in animal sciences. I would much rather participate in behavior, because if I participate in animal, I have to participate against Julie. But if I participate in behavior, there's no one there. They do that. Here's the problem. We have judges that are experts in their field. So if you're an animal project, you probably need to be in the animal division, or if you're a behavioral project in the behavioral division, so you are judged by the appropriate judges. Same thing at state, same thing in international. So really sitting down and looking at this. Middle school kids get confused. Middle school kids, I don't think there's any ill intent. They just don't know what the categories are. So we see kids in micro they really don't belong in micro. They're not doing antimicrobials or applied microbiology. They're doing things like playing with animals. So we need to just sit down with them and show them the subcategories. And on this page, or the link that I have right here, it actually takes you to more information, or the link that's at the top of this page right here actually fully details the category for them. And yes, I know, guys, I've gone through many arguments with students where I'd be like, show me where you are right here. And they'll be like, I don't know, I just like this category, but you don't belong here. You don't belong here. So really trying to get them to be honest about that. They're going to still, some of them are still play the games, but if you try and we try, we'll get better at it over time. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I've been harping over it for 35 years. So we'll just see. So there's also some rules our students have to follow when they present. So these are our display and safety rules. And so one of these is they need physical copies of Form 1C and 7. So this is 1C is the research institution form and 7 is the continuation form. And this is written in pages 26 and 27, rules 1 and 2 under additional forms required. If our students worked in a research institution or have a continuation, these forms are vital for our judges to figure out what they did, how it's changed, who helped them. And so it has to be displayed with their project. This is the only forms that have to be displayed other than their abstract. Everyone has to display their abstract. But at our fair, we put the abstract up for them. So all they're responsible for is 1C and 7. On pages 26 and 27, rules 1A and 1B talk about items not allowed. No commercial logos are allowed. If a student makes their own logo for their product, they can show it once, but no commercial logos are allowed. And in that same vein, no reference to an institution or mentor that supported the finalist research except as provided in the acknowledgement section of the poster and within the official ISEF paperwork. So they can't refer to their mentor in the abstract. They can't refer to their mentor in the background information. As of 2 years ago, I believe, they started allowing an acknowledgement section. So they can acknowledge them in their acknowledgement section. Also on page 27, rules 1C and 3, no reference to patent status. If they've applied for a status, they can't say it's patent pending or I've applied for a status, which they like to do. They can't do that. And also if their work has been published, they have to remove the publication information from their board and they cannot cite their own publication. That's another thing they like to do is say, oh, look, Shepherd, I wrote my own stuff. So here's my Shepherd stuff. All right, so make sure they're not doing that. And then, of course, social media addresses and active QR codes are not allowed as well. No active codes are allowed on their project. And for our fair, we have decided that no objects other than the board, binders, laptops, where they may be showing what they've made. So if they've made something, they need to do a little video recording, show it on their tablet, show it on their phone, and ISF paperwork. It's just too much to try to check all of it when they come in on the day of the fair. So it's their board and their binders, pretty much. The board, binders, and paperwork. That's what they need to bring with them. And I'm sure Heather will talk about that a little bit more. If you have more safety and display questions, our safety and display gurus are Michael Adams and Michael Lindsay, and here's their email addresses. If you have anything to ask them, they are glad to answer the questions because it's a brutal day when you have to start explaining to kids as they're coming in that they can't display something. We had a kid at State Science Fair last year that came in and brought all this stuff, and I was on safety display at State last year, and I just had to stop her and said, honey, you can't bring any of that in. And then I found out she was one of ours, and I said, well, did you bring this to the Dallas Regional? And she said, no. And I said, well, then you don't need it. And she was so upset, we had to calm her down and say, you're gonna do fine, you know your stuff, you're gonna do well. And of course, she ended up winning first place, so she was okay afterwards. But boy, it was a little brutal there for a moment. I hate it when kids cry. I hate it when their parents get upset. So just make sure we know right away what's allowed and what's not allowed. Here's my email address, and I am at, I'm not ready to say X, formerly known as Twitter, but that's my former Twitter address, or my still Twitter address, and my email address if you need to contact me. And then here are all those QR codes that I'll leave up for just a minute. Sorry that I'm not with you today. I'm off playing somewhere, but I look forward to seeing y'all in February.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing, and now I'm going to answer the questions that y'all put on. Okay. Can the teacher still go in and simulate the student or see all the student work? Yes, if you are the teacher of the student, you can go in and see all of their stuff. You can't sign in as the student, but you have access to see all of that. Can you give me more information about the health app diagnosis? Can they make one if they don't publish it? They can make an app. So I think where you cross the line is if they make an app and then it spits out results, and the results are given to the person who filled out the information. That's giving a diagnosis. So if you do run up against this and you have a question, feel free to a more specific situation, let us know, email us, and we can dive into it further, and we can get Karen involved if we need to. Until my district makes a STEM Wizard link to give to me, Andrew, if you don't mind telling me which district you are, I can put the link in the I don't know how many of the Uplift, okay, I don't know how many of them have gotten their stuff together and been able to get all that information out to you all. And I'm trying to help. And, the sub fair, unfortunately, is now a little bit more work on your district coordinators. Well, it's actually a lot more work. So I'm trying to help. Ashley's doing fine in Plano, but I'm trying to help everybody else get. Yeah, so if you want to, Emma, if you want to send me an email at drsef at smu.edu, I can add the schools, and I can even go back. Do y'all think, Uplift folks, do y'all think that it's pretty much just the same schools as it was last year? Because I can go in and do
I mean, we had a meeting just last week with Jeffrey and Megan, and so they were kind of like, we're getting it together. But yes, we should not have any new schools. It should
Okay.
just be the same of us.
Okay.
And I just don't know where they are in their timeline of things yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm happy to help out and go ahead and add the schools and get y'all going. So I'm not seeing where I can add let's see. Okay, so let's see if we can
Chris, yours is going to look a little different because it's a teacher account and Heather's is an admin account. So it does look a little bit different. I think yours will be very purple. If I remember correctly, teacher accounts are very purple.
When you're
Correct.
setting
Thank
up,
you.
yeah, when you're setting up the student, you actually go through, like, you're logging in and making a whole new account, but do it as a student, and then you select you as the teacher. You'll be able to go through.
Yeah,
And
and
the student
Thank
accounts,
you.
because we made a dummy student as well. So when you make the dummy student account, the student account, if I remember correctly, is very blue. So they are color coded. It's very white for admin, purple for teacher, and blue for student.
yeah, and I also found it helpful when I was doing dummy accounts to go into a different browser. So it just, whatever works. Okay, so what are the ways to publish the work, and is there any journal list? I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. So maybe we take that offline and you can email us.
Another thing with scanning the forms in is that the students really need to scan them all in individually. They shouldn't scan all of them in as a single upload, because then when you go in to approve or reject the forms, it will either approve or reject the entire upload of forms, and it doesn't let you, approve of their research plan but reject their vertebrate animal form because they don't have the right signature. So they need to upload each one as its own individual upload.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because then it will also show that the forms aren't complete, because each form has it's a little circle, and if that circle isn't green, then they can't be advanced. So they've got to do them so that each form shows up as being uploaded. If a student is testing the device on a parent, is it exempt from IRB? Nope, parents are humans.
The children might think differently.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I mean, a human is a human, and yeah, you need a IRB. What else? I think Christine and I were talking about this yesterday. We may do, after y'all have had some time to go in and play with it, we may do a couple of drop-in sessions where I'm just on Zoom and you can drop in and ask questions and we can go over anything. I'll also offer that if you have a specific group of teachers you would like me to talk with, I'm happy to. I think I've provided the link to I keep my calendar online. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom with a group of teachers or for your administrators, whatever. I know this is all very new, and it took me 3 months to really wrap my hands around STEM Wizard. So I'm asking y'all to do it in a couple of weeks and then teach your students how to do it. So I'm happy to answer and go over anything that would be helpful. So each human consent form must be scanned in separately.
You mean the human consent forms that the student would be having the people sign?
Yes,
I
like
don't
if you had if you had 30 people, then each form would have to be scanned in separately.
Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you scan those consent forms in. The student simply has to hold on to those so that if there is a question about whether or not they have consent from a specific person, they are able to prove the consent. When
That's
it
my
comes
understanding
to
as well.
For human participation, it's the form 4 is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they have a sample consent form, but then they keep all of theirs separate in a folder, right?
Correct.
Correct. Awesome.
So for example, if a student is, for some reason, working with vertebrate animals and doing a survey, so they're doing stuff with dogs and people, and they go to the dog park, or they're interviewing people, but they're doing something in the dog park to get the dogs to go to a certain toy, they would need both a Form 4 because they're doing a survey with people and a Form 5A because they're doing work with vertebrate animals. So the Form 4 needs to be uploaded separately from the Form 5A.
Yeah, and the good news is, again, if the students answer the questions in the wizard correctly, they will see on their screen in their student account empty circles where they need forms. So it shouldn't be too much rocket science on that end. It's not as cool as Scienteer where they just answered the questions and everything populated, but they should be able to figure this out.
On the silver lining side, if they are working with someone that they need a signature from who is maybe not as tech savvy and was struggling to get the link to sign the form, because all the forms had to be signed in Scienteer, and we sometimes had kids who would say, can I just get them to sign it in person and then somehow scan it in, because they just can't seem to make it work. And in Scienteer, we had to say, no, you can't do that. There's no way for that to happen. Now they can.
Yeah, it's true. Is there a general template for some of those consent forms?
I'm talking about, like you said, they're just gonna go and like have their parents do something, and so the parent counts as a human, and they just need a sign saying yes, they can use my info. I'm not talking about the official like Form 4 one, but just because every year I have to have like kids make their own consent forms for people to like sign saying like yes, you can use my test scores, but no, you can't use my name, stuff like that.
That is a great question that I do not have an answer to. Does somebody want to jump in?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Can you repeat it?
So she's talking about the general form, like if a student is gonna ask someone to sign saying you can use my information or whatever, are there general forms for consent out there?
Well, I'd have to do a Google search to know, probably. I mean, I would think Google would pull up something.
Right.
I mean, that would be part of that. I would think you could start with the consent template
Mm-hmm.
for that, because a lot of that is, consent to have your picture used, consent to, because the kids have to have that as well. If they're making their poster and they use a picture from their project and it happens to show a person other than themselves in the picture, they have to have that consent form that says, yes, you're allowed to use my image as part of your project. So I would start with that human consent form as a base and modify as needed.
Okay. So I'm gonna stick around but I think the basic training is over. Again, we'll send out this recording and the links to the 2022 SRC, like Karen referenced. So if you are new and if you just need a basic overall SRC IRB refresher, please take a look at that. Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Marianne. So the ICEF site has a sample template. I knew somebody must have a template, right? And so again, if your school is not listed on whatever site, even if it's not Dallas, happy to help get everybody up and running. I know this is a lot. I didn't realize when we created sub fairs that I would just also be creating a lot of work for the science coordinator. So sorry about that. But happy to help, happy to get the ball rolling on that. So with that, Christine, if you want to stop the recording,
I have two things real fast.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
One real fast, because I've seen a few emails coming in this morning. Please, anytime that we are sending out information, please check your junk and spam folders. There's something with the school districts that's like to block our emails. So please check those and add DRSEF at smu.edu to your address book or whatever, so that your inbox understands that yes, you want to receive those, so you don't miss any of our emails. And then the other thing is in regards to certificates for today. If you need or would like a certificate for participating in this training today, we do need you to send us an email so that I can make sure that we get you a certificate that you have these hours. And just email our email and say, I would like a certificate. Make sure your name is on there, because I've taken roll as I could, but some people only have a first name and some people weren't registered. So I don't have everybody's full name and possible email. So please make sure you have that in your email you send us. All right, and now I will stop.